Good evening. My name is Jonathan Forbes, Chair of the Hillsborough County Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee to the Transportation Planning Organization. Today is October, and I am happy to call our in-person hybrid meeting in order. So everyone should have an agenda in person here as well as online. The first item up was public comment, and so I will defer to Wade. Is there anybody waiting for any public comment?
Not that we have heard from.
Okay, and there was no comments that were sent in virtually as well?
No, sir.
All righty then. I'm going to move on to the next item in the agenda. And before I move on, I just simply ask that for those that are in person, if we're going to talk, please kind of project your voice so the microphones can pick up, and also please introduce yourselves so you can be properly represented in the minutes. All right, next thing on the agenda is our members' interest here. Does anyone have anything to share for any items that are upcoming in the future before we meet again? I'll pause. Hearing none, we'll go ahead and move on. I is Brent online right now? Brent Mosier?
Yes, he is.
Brent, do you want to talk about Walk with the Mayor?
Sure. So as part of our October Pedestrian Safety Month and our ongoing Sprint for Safety, we are hosting a 1 mile walk with the Temple Terrace Mayor on Saturday morning at about 8:45, 9 a.m. And we are going to do a 1 mile walk and see some of the historical homes. And then we're going to try to encourage people to sign up for our larger 5K event while we're there.
Okay, and where are people to meet with that event?
Right in front of Florida College, I believe.
But it would be posted on your Facebook page?
Yes, it's we shared it on our Facebook page, and so is the city. Yeah, 913 North River Hills Drive.
Alrighty, thank you, Brent. Any other interest here before we move on? Okay, hearing none. The next thing is the approval of the minutes. Those were posted on the website. Everyone should have the opportunity to review last month's minutes from September 8th. Does anybody have any considered changes, alterations, edits, corrections? I'll pause. Okay, hearing none, I think we can assume that the minutes should be considered approved.
Can we do that with the form?
I think we can consider them being approved, but not vote that they were approved. Yeah, so the minutes will reflect that there were no suggested changes. All righty, the next thing is item 4, action items here. This was the TIP amendment. We are not going to be able to make any action items here due to lack of in-person quorum. Is that correct, Wade?
We can still take comments and certainly pass this along to FDOT.
Alrighty then. So let's go ahead and we'll do that. Is Connor McDonald available online, or is someone else representing?
Connor, shall I make you the presenter?
Yes, please. I am online.
All right. Welcome, Connor. The floor is yours here. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you see my screen okay?
Yes, we can. Thank you very much.
Perfect. So Connor McDonald, TPO staff. I'm the newest TPO staff member. So I'm glad to be here today to present the 14 TIP amendments. There's 3 different groups. 14 amendments requested by the Florida Department of Transportation to add funds to the year 2022. The first group is the downtown interchange safety and operations adjustments. These are 3 amendments for roughly $154 million. The next group is the West Shore interchange reconstruction preliminary phase. These are 5 amendments for roughly 80 million. And the third group is traffic congestion management technology, also known as integrated corridor management. These are 6 amendments for roughly 24 million. These amendments came from the governor's announcement on September 13th for funding for 10 projects, and they equal about $258 million. So the first group is the downtown interchange safety and operations adjustments. Mostly all of those who've driven the downtown interchange know its problems well. This includes long congestion lining up to the I-4 exit towards Orlando. The congestion can sometimes go all the way back to Hillsborough Avenue. Drivers often lane dive into the exit at the last possible second to avoid waiting in the congestion line. It also prohibits access to the local street network, Nebraska especially, and occasionally even at MLK. The downtown interchange is also cited in the long-range transportation plan as a priority for the region and is part of the high injury network. There are 3 proposed changes to alleviate these problems. The red being westbound I-4 to northbound I-275, the yellow being westbound I-4 to southbound I-275, and the blue being southbound I-275 to eastbound I-4. These quick fix safety and operational adjustments will reduce the previously stated lane weaving and speeding if congestion and lining up with the I-4 exit and improve access to the local exits. Fdot is measuring that the downtown interchange will reduce deaths and serious injuries on I-275 near I-4 by nearly half. This means that the downtown interchange could prevent 1 to 2 fatal crashes and roughly 220 injury crashes annually. Since there are roughly 200 fatalities in Hillsborough County annually, this can mean a 1% drop in that measure. Fdot is also measuring a 14% traffic reduction on local streets. And continuing on that topic of traffic congestion on local streets, the downtown interchange is also planned to improve connectivity and safety on the local street network below. There's a proposed trail system that will connect the Tampa Heights Greenway project to Ivor and Encore development. Further, these improvements will complete streets under the interstate to connect these communities. The TIP amendments are also intended to relieve some issues on the local network, like drivers driving too fast on and off the interstate ramps and difficulty in seeing at night. Some mitigation strategies include reduced lane widths and having high emphasis on crosswalk markings. This slide shows the typical street sections for 14th and 15th Streets. While Fdot is responsible for the work on 14th Street, the City of Tampa has plans to improve 15th Street through the Green Spine project. These changes include sidewalks moving from 5 to 6 feet and lanes being narrowed. The first amendment in this set is amended from right-of-way acquisition to right-of-way utilities, preliminary engineering, environmental care, and design build for a total of around 26 million. This section is westbound I-4 to northbound I-275. The next amendment is an additional 60 million for westbound I-4 to southbound I-275. And the third amendment in this set in the downtown interchange project is adding 6 million for the I-275 southbound off-ramp to I-4. These 3 amendments make up roughly 154 million. The next group of projects is the West Shore Interchange Reconstruction preliminary phase. These 5 projects are preliminary projects that make up for 1 out of 4 phases of the West Shore Interchange. The West Shore Interchange has been a top regional priority for many years, and these projects are aimed to reduce congestion and weaving at the intersection of State Road 60 and I-275. They will also complement the Howard Franklin Bridge reconstruction. The first project, westbound State Road 60, will construct 1 general purpose lane, not a toll lane, along westbound State Road 60 from the George Bean Parkway to Courtney Campbell Cosger. The project has a total of around 36 million for utilities, preliminary engineering, environmental care, and the design build. The next project will extend a new seawall and construct an adjacent shared use path along the north side of the I-275 causeway. This project has a total of nearly $37 million. The next project is Cypress on LaSalle Street. These 2 low-volume roads are near business parks. They will be widened to enhance connectivity to 2 off-ramps and 1 on-ramp to the West Shore Tampa International Interchange. The project cost is around $3.6 million. Amendment 13 is westbound, or is West Kennedy Boulevard at West Kennedy Boulevard. It will allow the construction of additional left turn lanes and right turn lanes, one from eastbound Kennedy to eastbound Kennedy, the other from westbound Kennedy to westbound Kennedy. Fdot believes these will also facilitate traffic and mobility during future interstate construction. The project has a total of around $2 million. The final West Shore Interchange Amendment is a project to add a right turn lane from eastbound Boy Scout Boulevard to southbound Lewis Avenue. This project has a total of around $527,000. Finally, the Integrated Corridor Management or Traffic Congestion Management technology will allow a traffic control management center to manage congestion among several key corridors. These corridors include Nebraska Avenue, Tampa Street or Florida Avenue, Hillsborough Avenue, Dr. MLK Jr. Boulevard, Boy Scout Boulevard, and Kennedy Boulevard. These systems include an advanced detection monitoring systems, dynamic message signs, and closed circuit television. They have the goal of making phones safer and improving travel time reliability. Ultimately, they will deploy technology to allow engineers to see what's happening with traffic in real time. The first of these amendments is at roughly $5 million for design and build of Florida Avenue or Tampa Street. The next is roughly $6 million for Nebraska Avenue from Kennedy Boulevard to Bears Avenue. The third amendment is to change funds for roughly $4 million for design build of ITS systems on Kennedy Boulevard from West Memorial Highway to Ashley Drive. The fourth is Amendment 18 for funding, including $3.8 million of ITS systems on Dr. MLK. The fifth is $3.3 million for ITS systems on Hillsborough Avenue. And finally, the sixth ICM project, and amendment number 20, is $1.6 million for ITS systems on Boy Scout Boulevard from Airport Service Road to Dale Mabry Highway. As part of our public participation pilot, we're aiming to ensure that the public has had the opportunity to voice their concerns and support before they come before the committees and board. One of our outreach projects came from the Long Range Transportation Plan Outreach Survey that received 5,200 responses, over 5,200 responses. In this survey, respondents were given 4 options regarding a downtown interchange reconstruction. While the no-build score was higher in downtown areas and the full rebuild rating was higher in ex-urban areas, the safety and traffic quick fix option had the highest star rating overall and supported or unopposed by most zip codes. As part of the pilot, we also asked jurisdictions what public outreach they have done. Fdot in this case has done significant outreach regarding the downtown interchange since 2017. This has involved a series of community and neighborhood events, community working groups, and neighborhood and stakeholder presentations. As part of the pilot outreach, the TPO has also done significant outreach for these projects. This included a press release to 30 media outlets and more than 100 neighborhood associations and community groups. There's also a social media outreach, signs posted, and a webpage for more information. The next slide shows the social media outreach and the 3 of the 6 signs posted along the project locations. There have been some clerical corrections since the beginning of these presentations. This involved the description of the first West Shore Interchange project changing from 1 express lane to 1 general purpose lane. There are no toll lanes in these amendments. These changes have also included a correction from left to right turn lane from eastbound Kennedy to eastbound Kennedy. Finally, the project limits for the Hillsborough Avenue ICM project has changed from I-275 to Veterans Expressway. This slide shows the TAC and CAC suggestions. These include leaving pedestrian intervals at intersections with additional turn lanes, accommodating cyclists riding to Cypress Point Park and Courtney Campbell Causeway, noise walls at Robles Park, landscaping at those noise walls, narrow lanes and wider sidewalks on 14th Street in coordination with the City of Tampa, traffic signal prioritization for buses on the ICM corridors with coordination with HART, to ensure that new fences do not impede walk and bike access opportunities, and refer to the downtown interchange as part of the high injury network rather than as Vision Zero corridor. I'd also like to provide Mary Lou Godfrey's information from Fdot. She's a project manager for the Tampa Bay Next project, and my contact information as well. Today, the TPO board voted to approve the amendments. So with that, I'd like to open a conversation for healthy discussion and for awareness of these amendments. With that, I open the floor for any comments or questions.
First, start with any questions or comments here in the room, and then we'll move over to those that are virtual. All right.
I have a question.
Just a minute.
Abigail Flores, Hillsborough County Engineering. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. Abigail Flores, Hillsborough County Engineering and Operations. So regarding Kennedy at Memorial, what improvements for pedestrians and bicyclists and scooters will be incorporated into the scope?
I do have Mary Lou Godfrey on the line. She may be able to answer that question a bit better than I, but I will go back to the slide. The proposed changes are a third right turn lane from Kennedy to Kennedy, and then a left turn lane from Kennedy to Kennedy. And we also did contact, the TPO did make a motion to include those recommendations from the TAC and CAC, which do include deleting pedestrian intervals at intersections with additional turn lanes. However, I'll refer to Mary Lou Godfrey to see if she has anything to add.
Let's see. Yes, these plans are currently in design, and those pedestrian and bicycle accommodations are being reviewed. So we are still in the design process, but we can provide you updated plans if you would like, for better clarification of the pedestrian and bicyclist accommodations.
Yeah, because I believe Kennedy Boulevard has transit stops. It's a transit corridor, is that correct? And so you're gonna have pedestrian activity there. And, you know, is there pedestrian refuges being considered or mid-block crosswalks? Also, is this part of the alignment of bicycle network? So is there, and, you know, based on the land uses, is there destinations that micromobility users are currently accessing and want to continue to access, even though we're making the intersection larger with more left turn lanes that make larger crossing distances? That's the kind of information that I'd be interested in, please.
Surely, we'll be glad to provide that.
Is that, and then to go off what you said, I think there should be a shared use path connection from West Shore Mall to the shared use path as a part of this project. And to put it down Kennedy is kind of your most, you know, kind of the obvious option when I look at it, is there's going to be a DDI interchange at Rio Street, and that's where you're going to be able to make the connection to the shared use path. So just
Well, I'm sorry.
Full disclosure as well, I want to make on this project is that I worked on the concept development plans as a part of some work for my previous project. So I do have some information as far as like where they were previously. So hopefully I can use that to help out the group in helping with more recommendations.
Yes, currently, as you know, the Howard Franklin Bridge that's under construction has a shared use path as part of the bridge. And there will be, exactly as you mentioned, there at Rio Street as part of their West Shore Interchange Improvement Project, there will be a DDI. So it will be reconnecting Rio on both sides. And part of that is there'll be a trail that comes from the Howard Franklin over into Rio Street, and then it will be connected to the Cypress Point Park, and then it will be, that's one avenue of the shared use path is through Rio up to the Cypress Point Park. And then, as you know, you can go to Clearwater from there.
Okay, so have you considered making that connection from Rio to Kennedy to kind of tie it into the mall as a big destination?
Well, we are, as part of the West Shore Interchange, we are adding, because we're reconstructing the bridges, there will be connections at Occident and Trask, and Occident will provide a connection to the mall. So that will be another avenue through Cypress to the mall. If you'd
Okay.
like, we can show you. I mean, we're still the design for the West Shore Interchange. We did get funding from the governor, and that will be in July of 23. That project will be letting. So we are in process. We do have some preliminary design for the West Shore Interchange for the bicycle and pedestrian access, and we certainly can share that with you, what's being planned, and get your input.
And then you mentioned that there's going to be a shared use path connection from the trail to Cypress Point Park, and it's going to go up Rio Street. And I was wondering, has there been any consideration to make it a more direct connection on the west side of the Cypress Bay Corporate Center and the FBI building and across that little river there, rather than putting it along a sidewalk that's going to be adjacent to Rio Street?
The plan currently, and the city of Tampa we're working in coordination with the city of Tampa, is for the shared use path to come off the Howard Franklin onto the causeway and then go on the west side of Rio Street. And then connect to the Cypress Point Park.
Okay. Is there any consideration about why you want to go for more direct route? Because I recall that I don't know how the design has changed, but I recall it wasn't a very wide sidewalk along Rio Street given its constrained right of way.
There is right of way being purchased on Rio Street, so we could have a shared use path.
Okay, it will be a full width shared use path.
It will be, I believe it's 11-foot lanes. We're going to be, it's Rio Street pavement is wider than your normal lanes. And so we're going to be able to have 2 lanes going towards the interstate and 1 going in the northbound direction.
Okay, so it'll be an 11-foot shared use path that you're proposing. You're going to move the curb to do that?
Yeah, yes, we are. And we're going to improve the drainage on Rio Street because currently it appears that it floods. So that's part of that project.
Okay, thank you. That's an improvement since last I was aware.
I'm sorry, I couldn't understand.
Oh, I said that's an improvement in sidewalk width for that section of the shared use path. From my side, understood what it was.
I have a question regarding Kennedy Memorial. So are you guys also going to upgrade the detection there for vehicles? Like enhance the traffic operations there by installing, does that include detection?
Go ahead, Miranda.
So that the signal, you don't have to wait so long, or I'm just trying to understand.
Well, because there's typically loops in the road that detects the cars, but the industry is moving towards cameras, infrared, which will be able to detect pedestrians and bicyclists as well, since they to allow them to commute and travel efficiently as well by being recognized by the traffic signal. Will the technology be upgraded at this location, and will it detect pet and bikes?
Like I said, we're currently in the design, but we'll certainly incorporate the PED. I don't know the exact how much technology that we currently aren't using would be added, but I could certainly find out for you.
Now, for that ITS, does that include on and off ramps that you guys will be improving?
It's currently on the, what we consider our arterials. So it's not included on the on and off ramps at this time.
Okay, so arterials. So how will this ITS improve walking and biking efficiency and safety?
Currently, the integrated corridor management looks mostly at it does have the ability to see the density of traffic, so that it can be gauged on which routes people can take if there seems to be congestion. So, as in an indirect way, that could help pedestrians not to have roads that have extensive volumes on them, just disperse the traffic, reduce the delays, increase safety.
Okay, because that travel time, is that like delivered to your Google Maps and your Waze and?
Yes, through those data platforms, yes.
So then a pedestrian who wants a walking route would also get delay time. Is that right? Like red time versus, or is it just, yeah, with that system, also provide them with, red and green and walking routes instead of, a time based on their walking rate.
Well, was that a question or?
Yeah, we are upgrading this technology to provide reliable travel times. Can we incorporate reliable travel times for pedestrians and bicycles in this technology?
I'm not sure. I could find out for you.
Are you asking for specific technology to be incorporated? Because typically they would just do like a standard crosswalk and standard, add LPI and add, make sure it's all at the standard and everything. But are you guys?
Yeah, because this technology is providing travel times to drivers, right? When they look up directions and stuff and.
Well, there will be like a crosswalk button, so when you hit the button, then it'll flip the signal and it'll give you the walk sign.
But so my understanding is when these drivers are traveling, they're provided with reliable travel times. Is that right, Barry?
Yes, and it feeds it to many of the applications like that you have Waze, or if perhaps there's some kind of issue or incident on one of the arterials, it may recommend a different route. And we do have, if it so happens on maybe there's a incident on the interstate, and based on the data that's from the integrated corridor, it's determined that there's an alternate route. Sometimes that's can be used to allow drivers to improve their travel time.
If I may, is the question, Abigail, is this technology going to be transferable to any pedestrian or bicyclist use of tracking or mapping or route direction kind of applications? I think that's the question in the comments.
That's correct. Yeah, I want to, when a pedestrian or bicyclist map their route, I think that they should also get that there's congestion along their route or heavy, that way you can avoid that route if you wish to, the same way that drivers make those kind of decisions.
So I think that was the question and possibly a comment then, in the consideration of your program and plan.
Okay.
So I'm gonna ask Wade, from the virtual, is there any comments or questions from anyone virtually?
No, sir, I don't see anything virtually here in the chats. But Gail does remind folks, particularly in person, asking questions to identify themselves for the record so she can take notes.
Thank you for the reminder. Abigail, did I address kind of the summary of what you were asking?
Yes.
Okay, Tim Morris was the other commentator.
Yeah, I guess I could propose a motion for the group, right? So the two things I was concerned about, I'm just gonna have a brief session of comment here before I make the motion, but I talked about, okay, we want to make a shared use path connection from Rio, from the project up to Cypress Point Park, and Mary Lou said that they're gonna be doing that through Rio Street, through, I believe she said, an 11-foot shared use path running adjacent to Rio Street. And then also, I think the other area of opportunity is making the connection from Rio to the West Shore Interchange Mall, as that's a big, regional destination. And I think that shared use path connection should be made there. But I know that this project, as it currently stands, does not have that shared use path connection. And considering that they're going to be doing some heavy construction on Kennedy and State Road 60, I guess my motion is that we recommend the addition of a shared use path connection between Rio Street and State Road 60 to the West Shore Mall. What do you guys think of that? And then
I would second that.
you would second that?
Well, let's, okay, so we have a motion and we have a second on here, so that's time for commentary. So the motion again, Tim, is recommend a shared use path along Rio Street,
Along Kennedy Boulevard,
Kennedy,
connecting the existing shared use path that will be present at Rio Street to the West Shore Mall. Ideally along the north side of Kennedy Boulevard, but obviously where the right of way permits.
so that's sort of an amendment to the original motion, but you clarify.
Yes.
Right, and I think because we have a clarification.
Second.
We have a motion. Second, any further commentary? I think that's good. Then go to vote on this.
Yes. We have a form now.
Okay, we have a form. So then all in favor of the motion as stated, signify by aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, motion in first passes.
I'd like to make a motion that adjacent to the shared use path on this is Abigail Flores, Hillsborough County Engineering, that there's going to be a shared use path on Kennedy. And the motion that I propose we're making is that there also be on-street bicycle facilities, share the road with proper signage and markings.
On Kennedy?
Yeah.
And I would personally say that I'm against that.
We have a motion, right?
Yes.
Yeah, we have to work through that. Is there a second for that motion?
Second.
Okay, we have a second on the motion here. So then we go to commentary.
Yeah, I just think we want to be careful not to ask too much given the high volume of traffic in this area. and the constrained right of way, I personally just don't see it as feasible to get both, given you've got a 6-lane boulevard, and if you drop down in street view to get a 12-foot wide shared use path, it's already going to be, it is already asking a lot, just in terms of additional right of way being purchased. And then to add a bike lane, add an on-street bike lane, you would have to move the curb out, which is a huge essence. You have to move all the drainage structures and, you know, additional right of way on top of that. So that's where I'm at. That's where I see it, and I want to be a group that proposes something that is an improvement that advances and heightens the mode of bikes and pedestrians while also being realistic and reasonable.
Right, so the class 3 that I'm proposing would not require, it is basically an on-road bicycle facility that has sharrows, right? So we're talking about markings and signage. It says share the road, or bikes may use full lanes. So that's what I'm proposing, because shared use path, this Abigail Florence again for the record, shared use path was generally used by recreational users, less confident users, and on-road facilities like a share the road, class 3, shared facility with bicyclists on the road is where people who ride bicycles and like to make efficient time and like to have access to quick movements like making a left turn or such like that. It's more convenient to do from the roadway as a bicyclist as opposed to being on a shared use path where you have to cross at the intersection with pedestrians. So what's the lane width there, Mary, at the location we're talking about?
I would imagine in that area, because of the volumes, it's closer to 12 feet, which is the preferred.
Yeah, so you can have a shared use lane even at 10 feet, right? So because bicyclists are legally allowed to be on the road, you're just putting markings to inform the drivers, hey, you can expect to see bicyclists here, and also to show the bicyclists where to position themselves on the road because they're positioning themselves on the markings. So that's what I'm proposing, because we are moving towards in our industry having facilities complete streets. So you have the shared use path for the concerned and that want to be off the road, but then you need the on-street facilities to for those who want to travel more efficiently and faster as a vehicle.
Yeah, I don't see a problem with Sharrow. It would certainly take a brave soul. I mean, I consider myself an avid cyclist, 26-year-old male, and yeah, I still wouldn't personally bike on that roadway given the speed and volumes that you experience. But
The other
certainly
thing-
I don't know
Yeah, that's a good point.
if you want to have that.
Let's,
Well, what's the speed limit there, Mary? Is there a speed study that's going to be done?
We can find out what the speed is there, what's the posted, what the road is designed for, because we're in the process of doing the design right now.
Yeah, so that's another thing. You can find out if there's going to be a speed study, and this facility would only be appropriate for 35 miles or less.
so just here, we're operating under your motion, Abigail. It's been seconded as part of the commentary here, just a little bit. So I think Elaine has something.
Absolutely, I live obviously with the EPC. Just a general question, do we know, is this intersection that has a history of injury to pedestrian bicycles? Is it area intersection of concern as part of the overall? General question for everybody staff.
I'm having a lot of trouble hearing. Was that a question for?
Yeah, the question is this intersection an area of concern in terms of history of accident or injury or fatalities for bicycle pedestrians?
I can find out for you.
All right.
Okay, this is Jim Sharp. I have a question regarding, you said that it's going to be most likely 12-foot lanes, and 12-foot lanes encourage speeding. I would like to see some, what would be the impact of cutting the lane width down to 11 feet or less? 11 is probably the number we could ask for. And using that to kind of cut the speed down, make it a little more useful, as Abigail noted, it's got to be under 35 miles an hour to be shadows have any impact.
So with the commentary then, back to Abigail, your motion, you've heard some questions from Elaine, you've heard questions from Mr. Shirk here. Any adjustments to your motion here?
Yeah, I think narrowing the lane width, I'd like to include that, especially in an urban area that's, unless it says a truck route, but it's or a bus route. Yeah, that's narrowing the lane width should be investigated.
All right, any further conversation or commentary?
Peter Davitt, representative of Temple Tires. I'm an active bike rider in the city of Tampa. I need a ride every Thursday night. We go everywhere. Some nights are less scary than others, but there's no way in the world that I ride my bike on Kennedy. Absolutely not. I did it once. We were a group of 50 people. We took an entire lane for 2 blocks. Other than that, I would put all the sharp signs if you want. People don't care about that. You beat your horns to give you the finger for your speed dash. I don't think it'd be a safe place to do it. There's got to be some on the street to send us down our place. And I wouldn't support it just because of that. I wouldn't drive my bike.
Glenn Watts, I'll follow up again with his comments there. Yeah, I wouldn't want to do anything that would encourage bicyclists to go on a street that's, or an intersection that's not based on speed limit. Tentative about supporting something that would encourage them without having one.
There already, that cyclists, bicyclists, that they already have the right to be there, and if there's destinations here, like you're talking about connections to malls and connection to the bridge and these kind of, if we improve the network, we're going to see more bicyclists using these routes that have connections. So, yeah, confidence in my mind.
So, any adjustments to your motion then?
No.
So hearing none, then we can put the motion for a vote. All in favor of the motion during the meeting? Yeah, we have a second. So all in motion, or all in favor of the motion, signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Yeah.
All right, I think we're gonna have to do this by hand. I'm sorry. With the next map, those that voted aye, signify by hands. 1, 2, 3 ayes. Nay. 5. So it's 3 yeas, 5 nays. So the motion does not pass. Any other further discussion concerning this agenda item? All right, hearing none, then thank you very much for your time this evening, Mary and Connor. Hopefully the conversation kind of provided some additional thoughts and consideration for this project.
Vote on this, John.
What's that?
We require we vote on this.
We just did.
The big thing.
Oh, well, wait, did we?
I know we just voted on.
Oh, we voted on our part of the. Yeah,
This was the, first was the double.
So wait, we need to vote on the overall passage of the amendment as presented?
Yes, sir. The previous vote was on the shared use path along Kennedy from Rio to the West Shore Mall. And then we just had the votes on on-street facilities. If anybody would like to make an overall motion. Yes, sir.
We'll entertain an overall motion on the item. We have moved for approval of the motion. Do we have a second? We have a second. Any further conversation? Hearing none, we can vote. All in favor of the motion signify by aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. All right. Thank you. All right. Thank you very much again, Mary and Connor.
Thank you.
All right. Yes, we can do that. Thank you, Sally. So we're going to move back just a tad bit for the approval of the minutes that were submitted with our agenda items, since we have a form now. We have a motion. We have a motion and a second. Any conversation? All right, hearing none. All in favor of the approval of the minutes, signify by aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. All right, motion passes. Thank you. That would be a question for Wade.
Wade, this is Sally. Are there any previous minutes that we need to approve?
We have been asking for if there were any corrections or objections to any part of the minutes. Unless there are any objections to considering those minutes approved, that is how we've been handling it up till now. But
So if there weren't any objections, they were approved, or they weren't before? Or do we have to sort of say, there weren't any objections, so now we approve all the ones since we finally have a board?
I'm not sure I know the answer to that, but we had been operating as if they were approved, provided nobody had any corrections.
Would the planning organization prefer that we have an approval of the minutes for the last 18 to 20 months?
Can we do it on a blanket basis?
Well, that's the creation of the motion here, but
I move approval of the previous minutes that we have not objected to since we now before.
Since we have failed to.
Since we have failed to approve them, since we didn't have a quorum, but since there was no objection, this is just sort of a perfunctory.
Perhaps back to March of 2020.
I don't know, March 2020?
If you all would like to go all the way back to March 2020 and retroactively approve the minutes, certainly no objection from me.
I move we approve the minutes retroactively to March 2020. I second.
All right, motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, hearing none. Motion, vote in favor of the motion, signify by aye. Aye. Nay.
And Mr. Chair, that was Sally made the motion, and who seconded?
Jim. Mr.
Jim, thank you.
Right.
And on the previous motion for the tip amendment, who made the motion and seconded?
And Jim Sharp second.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, the overall approval. All right, again, just remind everybody, just introduce yourself before we but I think I heard yeas and nays, so the minutes were approved, correct? All righty, next is item B here, the rectangular rapid flashing beacons. I see Gina in attendance here virtually. I'll turn this over to Gina Torres within PPO staff. So welcome, Gina.
Thank you. Yes, nice to see everybody again. Gina Torres, the TPO staff. A rectangular rapid flashing beacon, which I will say RRFB, which is not any easier really to say, is a traffic control device designed to increase driver awareness of pedestrians crossing roadways at marked mid-block crossings or uncontrolled intersections. And the beacons consist of rectangular shaped amber LEDs, and they're installed below a pedestrian warning signs. So I wanted to make sure that we're clear about what devices we're talking about. There's a picture of one. These are cheaper to install than Hawks, which are, they use mast arms that go up and over the roadway, sometimes in more multi-lane roads. Generally, an RRFB costs about $20,000 to install. A Hawk is approximately $200,000 to $300,000 to install. In Hillsborough County, we have about 170 RRFBs. In Pinellas, there's over 300. And if you've gone to the beach, you've probably used one to get across Gulf Boulevard. These are effective. RRFBs have been studied and researched. Motorists respond to pedestrians in a crosswalk 88% of the time, as opposed to 18% of the time when there isn't one there. They've been noted to reduce fatalities by 47%, which is why these RRFBs are a recommended practice by FHWA. It's actually one of their spectacular 7 countermeasures to pedestrian fatalities. Locally, we've seen Fletcher Avenue. I mean, it did have a little bit more other safety features added when the complete street was done, but several of these RRFBs were installed, and there has been a 46% reduction in injuries, 60% reduction in fatals. And the reason this legislation came forward is very tragic. There was a heartbreaking fatality of a young girl who was killed at one. But we don't know how many lives we've saved or have been saved by RRFBs. That kind of information isn't out there, but it's scores, I would imagine. So the bill was introduced. This is the 3rd time it's coming before the legislature, and changes are being suggested that restrict RRFBs, where they go and what they look like. Their legislation wants them to be coordinated with adjacent intersection traffic lights, to change the light from yellow to red. And then it goes further and kind of mandates that if those changes aren't made, that the local agencies or the state, wherever those are, have to be removed. The changes that are being suggested are not likely going to be approved into the MUTCD, the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices. So it's unlikely the feds are going to agree with this, because this is not the way that those devices are used. And removal will be expensive and really dangerous. I mean, they are in some communities of concern. They're used heavily, and they've, like I said, have saved lives. Most of us, all of us that have been following this and talking about it, feel like instead of throwing the baby out with the bathwater, let's make those better. Let's use a more defined location for the RRFBs and have engineering review instead of just really having them removed. So there's regional support, and that was shown in the attached letter to your item, but it was from the Suncoast Transportation Planning Alliance, which used to be T-BARNA. There's 5 MPO and TPOs on that group, as well as several cities, and even the Institute of Transportation Engineers have signed on in their opposition to these laws, the 2 bills, I should say. And we just like to get support from our committees. We also will be sending a letter very similar to this letter to our legislative delegation and have that distributed out, and really are encouraging other agencies and organizations to chime in, because I guess we've heard from some legislators that if you inundate them with letters, it kind of gets their attention. So that's it. I can, maybe answer some questions. Abigail's there if there's some technical questions, but just wanted to hear your thoughts on that letter.
And I'll open up the floor concerning any questions. Yes, Val.
Is that what's on Bay Shore now?
It's really
Pardon? Is that on Bay Shore? There's several of them on Bay Shore now, which has helped with safety on Bay Shore Boulevard.
It sure has.
That's what they are?
That's Bay Shore Boulevard has them, East Hillsborough Avenue, Fletcher Avenue.
You go back to.
It's a little hard to hear. I actually hear Jonathan pretty well, so if he can repeat the question, if there is one, it might help.
My question was, is that what Are those the things that are on Bay Shore?
Yes,
Okay. And
yes,
some Bay Shore safer.
it absolutely has. And there's statistics on that. I don't have those at my fingertips.
I
But
just didn't recall. Thank you, Sal. This is Sal Thompson.
I've got a comment as well. This is Timothy Horst, citizen at large. And Gina, I've heard of this initiative as well, and I think it's incredibly silly that they would try to propose something like this. I personally feel like it's what happens when politicians try to get involved in design standards that, you know, is better regulated, better delegated to the planners and the engineers and the professionals in the industry. So, yeah, I think this is great what you're doing, to get the letter and let them know that, yes, even the Bike and Pedestrian Committee is against changing the design standards and requirements for the RRFPs.
great to hear.
This is Jim Sharp. May I ask a question?
Mr. Shirk, go ahead.
Would a motion by the committee be appropriate? Would a motion by
I don't see why not, honestly. The more the better, is what I've heard. You could use the same language. I mean, I would.
All right, thank you. Any questions in the chat box by those that are attending virtually?
No, sir.
All righty then. So I think just if I could recap, so what the action item would be that Jim, you were asking if a motion would be in order to approve the support of the letter of, yes, the draft letter of September 17, 2021.
Yes, that's correct. This is Jim Sharp, and I will be approving that.
I thought it was September 23rd.
It's a letter, Gina, of the September 17th and September 23rd. I thought I grabbed the 17 off of this one.
That's the one, this is the one, this is Sally Thompson. It says, this is the draft letter of pedestrian safety and mid-block crossings legislation that you drafted from Hillsborough TPO. The one that's up there is the one that was sent from, that's whatever needs to be TPO.
All right, so for the motion activity here that Jim's preparing, what's the date of that draft?
September 23rd.
I move we support, or I make a motion to support the draft letter of September 23rd from TPO legislature.
Second.
So we have Jim making the motion on the approval of the support of the letter, and we have Sally that seconded. Any conversation concerning approval of the letter?
Yeah, so what is I'm definitely in support of this letter. So would that be us adding our signature to it, or would we add some information to the letter? What would that entail?
That would be the question. The question, I guess, for regarding the motion is it with our signatures, or just that we are adding in the letter concerning the support? Is that
I think the committee's motion of support is adequate to support the letter sent by the MPO board and the SCTPA.
Jim, do we need to make an amendment to the motion?
I don't know. Wait, do we need to amend the motion to make that over, or is it?
No, I think your motion was fine supporting the letter of the SCTPA and MPO board.
Okay. I don't see a need for that.
All right, then. So we'll put the vote. All in favor of the motion to approve, signify by aye. Aye. Nay. Not approved, signify by nay. Motion passes. Thank you, Gina.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
All right, then. All right, moving on to the next action item here is the tentative work program comments. This is with Vishaka Raman, TPO staff.
Hello, good evening, committee. This is Vishaka Shivraman, TPO staff. Actually, I'm not going to be presenting today. It's going to be Suzanne Monk from FDOT, who will be presenting to you the tentative work program highlights.
And Suzanne, I believe I just gave you presenting duties. Let me know if you have any trouble.
Thank you. Let me try to, this is my first time. So let me see if I can get it to work. Can you guys see the PowerPoint?
We do see it.
Okay, cool. Let me somehow take you guys down. Okay. So again, thank you guys for letting me come and present. This is the presentation on the 5-year work program, which is going to be for fiscal year 2023 to fiscal year 2027 for the Department of Transportation. My name is Suzanne Monk. I have taken over for Roger Roscoe, and I will be the Hillsborough TPO liaison. And the projects presented in this presentation are going to be funded from July 1st to July 1st, 2022 to June 30th of 2027. I don't know why this is going to be. I do not know.
It does not seem to be advancing.
I know.
Is it a PDF, Suzanne? Yeah, you might be scrolled down.
No, it's a animated PowerPoint, so it gets a little crazy, but I think I got it to work. So hopefully, this is my first test run. You guys are the first to see it all, so I apologize. So the FDOT's work program is basically the department's 5-year work program. Like, it's the financial plan of all the projects that we are going to try to implement. It's going to include transportation planning, intelligence transportation, highway design, right-of-way acquisition, and any construction activities for any of these projects. Currently, our current 5-year program is fiscal year 22 through 23, which is adopted right now. Any of these projects are going to be urban corridors, bike ped projects, rail projects, airport, or urban corridors. There's a whole bunch. So let me hit the next one. So each year on June 30th, the current year of the work program ends. And on July 1st, year 2 moves up to be the new current year. So this is just showing that, come July 22, we're going to be in fiscal year 23, and our new 5-year is going to extend all the way into 2027. So new projects that are going to be discussed tonight are going to be any projects that have been added to the new 5th year, which would be the fiscal year 2027. And these projects are based on Florida Transportation Plan goals, statewide programs, and local priorities. Currently, we are in the process of updating the work program, so we're in the tentative stage. It's really is a proposed work program at this point. We are going to submit to the Florida legislator later this year for review, and then it goes to the governor for review and signature. At that time, after the governor signs the work program and is good with everything, the first year will be included in the state budget, and the work program is considered adopted at this time. Basically, we look first to, when we're deciding what projects are going to be funded, we're going to preserve existing programs. So we're going to look to see if we have any projects that have phases that are not currently funded first. And then we would go to look at the cost estimates of projects that are currently funded. So any estimates that need to be updated, we would program and fund those. And then we would look at adding new projects in that first, or in the last, yes, the new 5th year. Sorry, confusing. Projects that we would look to fund would be safety and security. We want to preserve the system, multimodal enhancements, operational improvements, capacity improvements. All of these projects are going to be based on the MPO's priority list, regional priorities, the CIS and FDOT priorities as well. So basically, my presentation, if you don't hear me bring up a project, isn't nothing new. It's still programmed. Nothing has changed. Generally speaking, everything that I'm about to give you the highlights for Hillsborough County is basically anything that's been added to fiscal year 2027. And it could be anything from PD&E phase, design, right-of-way, construction, design build, or CAP grant. So the first project is the MPO transportation planning, which is the #1 priority for the TPO. They get this every year. We've added their planning studies to do whatever planning studies that they need to perform in fiscal year 2027. The second one is George Road from Dana Shores to Town and Country Greenway. It looks like we had it programmed for design in fiscal year 24. However, we went ahead and added a planning study, a corridor study in fiscal year 2025 at the request of the MPO. And the last one on this particular slide is Fowler Avenue from 56 to I-75. We added a corridor study in fiscal year 23 to really look at the bike ped improvements that need to be done just in this part of the corridor. Next is Bush Boulevard from North Almabry Highway to North Nebraska. We went ahead and advanced right-of-way from fiscal year 25 to 23, and we've added construction in fiscal year 27. And previously, this was the construction was in a different year, but at the request of the MPO, they wanted to have us fully fund the construction in 27. So we went ahead and made that happen. The next one, US 92 from west of McIntosh Road to east of McIntosh Road, we've added design funding in fiscal year 23, which is another priority. Adamo Drive at 26th Street, we've added a right-of-way in fiscal year 24 and construction in fiscal year 26, which again is another Hillsborough TPO priority. And then you'll see Rio Street, which we talked about earlier. Rio Street from Gray Street to Cypress Street. Construction funding has been added to fiscal year 23. A lot of these projects received federal stimulus funding, the ones that are in 23, so we were able to get those programmed to help out the TPO. The next couple set of slides are resurfacing projects that the department has programmed. The three on this particular slide, we've added design in fiscal year 23 and construction in 25. The first one is MLK from Wheeler Court to Forbes Road. The second one is US 301 from Manatee County Line to Sun City Center. And the last one on this particular slide is US 301 from Baum Road to Witt Road. And this slide, there again, resurfacing projects. The first three, we've added design funding in fiscal year 23 and construction in 25. Fowler Avenue from Bruce B. Downs to River Hills Drive. Also Causeway Boulevard from US 301 to 50th Street. And Kennedy Boulevard from west of South Hoover Boulevard to Church Avenue. And then it looks like the last project on here, Adamo Drive from west of North 34th Street to east of North 34th Street. We've added design in fiscal year 25 and construction in 27. We generally, it looks a little different. I'm trying to hold on one second. The department actually funds resurfacing projects in the new third year of the work program. So that's why you're seeing some of the funding isn't in 27. It's actually a little bit further in. So that works for everybody. And then the last set of resurfacing projects we have actually include intersection improvements. So we put them all on one slide for you guys. All of these projects are being funded for design in fiscal year 23, and then the construction will be in 25. So the first project is State Road 60 from Buckingham Place to Lithia Pinecrest Road. The next project is North Park Road from Baker Street to I-4. And the last project is Dow Mabry Highway from Gandy Boulevard to Sevilla Drive, or Sevilla Street, sorry. The next slide is upcoming rail projects that were added. We added rail safety construction in fiscal year 23 for State Road 60 rail crossing 624572-B, which is east of Clarence Gordon Drive or Junior Road. And we've also advanced rail safety construction from fiscal year 25 to 23 for the Kennedy Boulevard at Willow Avenue Railroad Crossing. And our last set of slides on the Hillsborough County highlights is on the multimodal projects. TIA actually is getting a construction in fiscal year 23 for the replacement of their airside shuttle cars and systems. And then HART bus replacements, which is another TPO priority. I think it's number 3. They receive funding every year, usually in form of capital grant for bus replacements. So they'll be receiving that funding in fiscal year 27. Total funding over the 5 years is $1.1 billion. Not really going to go into the details of every single breakdown here, but I did want to point out bike ped, it does say 13 million. That is not accurate. It is more than that. It's hard for our work program to capture specific bike ped. So what you're seeing, the 13 million, those are specific bike ped projects that are only coded for bike ped in our work program. However, you know, we take bike ped very seriously. We have in our complete streets, there's bike, you know, each of our elements, there's, you know, different projects. We're adding bike ped elements to each of those projects. So there's no way for me to pull that money and place it under each of, actually capture the correct amount. So if anyone has any questions that, you know, I can try to get you the answers on that. So, but I did want to point out we are spending more than $13 million on bike ped improvements throughout the district. This slide, I just want to let you guys know we're doing our online public hearing from October 25th through October 29th, and located next to it is the website. Also on October 28th, we're having our District 7 work program open house in the office. It's 9 a.m. to 6. November 12th is actually when we're looking for public comments to be due. And November 22nd would be when the NPO objections are due. And then later on, winter/spring of 22, this will be reviewed by FTC and the legislator. And then the program will be adopted July 1st of 2022. But let me go to my last slide. I just want to thank you guys for allowing me to come and present. And this is our actual website. So if you guys have any comments, you know, feel free to visit our website and give us some comments. You know, they're due by November 12th. But if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer them. I know it's a lot of information.
Already, we'll open it up for questions. First one's with Sally Thompson.
This is a little off the subject, but I need some help in understanding. Where does Sun Trail funding, which is done by DOT, fit into the picture? And what do we need to do to get more Sun Trail funding in this area?
Okay, so the Sun Trail money is actually, it's a separate pot. There's an application, I believe. I'm actually the Sun Trail coordinator, but I just took over, so I'm happy to get you any information. If you want to put your email in the chat, I can send you the information. Normally, I know there's very little Sun Trail money right now. I'm not sure how that's going to go in the future. I know they're trying to get some more funding and spread it evenly, but I'm not sure exactly when we will get more funding for that.
Okay, we've gotten very little.
Yeah, I honestly, there's not a lot of money. I know Pinellas has one project for Pinellas Loop, and they just requested some additional funding, and we had to tell them we don't have any money at this time, and we don't know. It's an allocation, and I don't believe that we got any for this next funding cycle. But if you want to shoot me your email, I'm happy to, in the chat, I'm happy to get you some more information from Robin Birdsong and coordinate some more information with you to see how we can get some more if and when it becomes available.
Thank you. So I need to. How do I contact you?
Well, Suzanne, do you want to put your contact information back up on the slide here?
We don't have access to the chat here in person.
Oh, okay. Yeah, hold on. And let me.
And Sally, this is Wade. I'm happy to coordinate between you and FDOT and get everybody connected.
Perfect. Thank you.
So that's all.
That's perfect.
All right, Mr. Sure.
Okay, my question is, I noticed that Kennedy Boulevard is getting repaved, and every time that something gets repaved around here, we get to see afterwards and note that there are no bike lanes. So will we get a chance to comment on the absence of bike lanes in the planned repaving of Kennedy Boulevard?
Hold on. Are you talking about this one, Kennedy from west of South Hoover?
No, South Hoover to Church Ave. Kennedy Boulevard?
Yeah, that's the one. You're asking about if we're going to be doing any bike lanes there?
Yeah.
Okay. Honestly, I really don't know off the top of my head, but I'm happy to get that information and reach out to the project manager on that project and see. The way that they code it in the work program, it just says resurfacing, but hold on, let me see.
The westernmost part of that would be part of what Mr. Horst made the motion for adding a side path on from from Rio to I guess it's Kennedy where it hits again. But Church would be, of course, between all the way down to Del Mabry almost.
The problem, the problem is that you've got a cemetery there, and between Church and Dale Mabry, it really closes off a lot of options.
I'm looking it up right now to see exactly what the scope is, to see if they're doing anything besides that. But if not, then I can definitely get with somebody at the district to see what we can do.
And I recall when that came before this committee, probably about a year ago, there was a request for an additional mid-block crossing between Lois and West Shore in that stretch, if I'm not mistaken. But we can get that information to you.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just trying to open the PPR to see exactly. I'm kind of the Lone Ranger here today, so I apologize.
Might I suggest we'll just come back to that there. You have the comment regarding here, because because I think we had another question with Mr. Watson.
Oh, I found the information, so I was just going to let you know. It looks like we're milling and resurfacing at Kennedy west of South Hoover. We're upgrading the signalized intersection of South Hoover to mast arms and including intersection lighting. I don't see anything about bike lanes, but yeah, I'll check on that and get back to you, because it looks like there's a couple different sequences on this project, and I want to make sure I didn't miss something. It looks like they might be doing some different work besides just resurfacing. So I'll go ahead and I'll reach out and see what I can find out about that.
All right, thank you. All right, Mr. Watson.
Glenn Watson, EPC. Again, Jim, I had the same thoughts that many times in the past we've had an initial comment about a design of a resurfacing project, but we don't see the final. And then we come to realize that there was no consideration for bicycle lanes on a resurfacing. So looking at this TIP amendment, I see that most of the resurfacing projects are in P&E for funding for 23, FY23. Even though we may have had a comment previously when it was initially proposed or shown to us, I hope that this committee gets another opportunity to make comments to the scope and design of these resurfacing projects, see that they address where appropriate bicyclists and pedestrians.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I can pass along the message. I would suggest making that comment on the website. Just, because we are going to be in design for 23, that's more, I mean, right now is the time to be making those comments. So I will pass the comment along, but I also suggest if you guys have any comments on any of the projects to definitely, take the time to go to the website and make the comments, because, that's what it's there for.
Good one. Ms. Flores, did you have a question or comment?
Yeah, my comment, thank you for the presentation, is, Abigail Flores, Central County Engineering, is that, as opposed to making individual comments for each resurfacing project, I'd like DOT to share with us what steps are they taking to implementing to be inclusive of bicycle facilities, lane reductions, adding high visibility crosswalks, adding mid-block crosswalks. If we want that incorporated into these resurfacing projects as into that methodology. So I know that other state DOTs are doing that. They're implementing complete streets into their maintenance of infrastructure. And so how can we get that incorporated, these considerations incorporated into every resurfacing, the lane reduction, the bike facilities, and the TED facilities? Or excuse me, the lane width reduction.
Okay, I'm just going to repeat because I want to make sure that I capture in my notes exactly what you put, and it's kind of a little shoddy with the sound. So you want to know what steps we're taking to ensure we're taking into consideration the bike lanes, the lane widths, sidewalks, and what else?
The high visibility crosswalks
High visibility.
and mid-block crosswalks. How are those being considered for each resurfacing project?
Okay.
If I might comment, that kind of question is very, you're looking to, when you're designing a roadway, you're looking to improve the roadway, and you make your countermeasure recommendations based off of like each specific roadway. So you just hope that the engineers looking at it and designing it are making those considerations. And they are all laid out in FP and they are in design principles. I mean, DOT is, you know, shifting its focus more towards safety, and that has been evident to myself and many others here. So I believe they are taking measures and have been taking measures to focus in on safety countermeasures and looking for opportunities to implement them.
Yeah, we're not going to rely on hoping the engineers do the right thing. Those days are over. So what we need to do is get them to do a checklist. And if they don't want to put pet facilities, they have to document why. So the default is put pet and bike facilities in. The state DOTs are going with this everywhere. Default is put bike facility, bike and pet in, complete street. Then if they say, oh, we don't have the right of way, or the speeds are too high, or there is an appropriate alternative parallel route they can take, okay, so you document that. But waiting for them to incorporate it, that's not the way the industry is going, especially at the state DOT level. So we need to start them thinking about incorporating complete streets as a default and then documenting when they're not able to install it.
I mean, they do have the DOT Safe Streets Guidance and Policy and Initiative, and that is something that they're pushing from the top and in all of the districts. But there's no tracking mechanism for when that isn't implemented or able to be funded or.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I know, like, I know we have, like they said, we have the complete streets, and those are things that we want to include. I can't speak for how these projects are programmed because I don't know exactly for some of those resurfacing projects. I know that some of the resurfacing projects that have the intersection improvements, we clumped those together because that made sense to do it all at one time. I know right now we're working on doing, I think it's a complete street for Fowler, and I know that I know working with the TPO on, you know, all of the different segments to get everything programmed and to do all of the the environmental documents and everything like that. It takes a lot of time, and I'm not saying that we don't have the time to do that, but I would be interested to know, you know, like what states are doing this, just so maybe we can reach out to them to see what kind of mechanism they're using to track this, because like they said, we don't have a mechanism to track it, but we're definitely trying. We want to do the complete streets and make it right. So do you know off the top of your head like what other DOT agencies?
Yeah, California DOT is incorporating complete streets, so you track the mileage of bike lanes installed and other ways of tracking maintenance, just like we track other facilities. You start tracking pet and bike facilities, and yeah, it's a default in any repaving program. They have to put complete streets, and if they're not going to do it, they have to explain why it's not feasible or wasn't included in the design.
Okay. Yeah, no, I mean, I've worked with other DOTs previously. I worked as a lab coordinator for many years, and we worked with other DOTs that have implemented and how they track different lab projects and local agency projects. So I mean, I don't see why we can't. I can talk to some people around here to see why we can't reach out to see how California is working to track these type of projects.
I can provide you contact with that also.
Okay. Yeah. No, I would be willing to give them a call and you know, hopefully get them in touch with the correct person here. That might be me. I'm not sure, but we can definitely check on it.
That definitely be worth tracking, because oftentimes things get cut out of projects, or they just say, oh, well, that'd be nice to do, but there's just not money for that, so we're just going to cut it. And then those things often, you know, just fall by the wayside and aren't tracked.
No, definitely. I definitely agree. Like, I mean, we're real lucky we have the funding to do the resurfacing and the intersection improvements at the same time. That, I mean, just luck, blinding that kind of stuff up. So I totally get it. But I mean, I'm open to reaching out to people to see, you know, how they do things, to see if we can improve our process.
Okay. Gail, you need to remember, Tim Morris was the other voice besides Abigail Flores. Okay. Wait, this was just a comment. It wasn't an action item, correct?
Yes, to provide comments, sir. And I did, if it's all right, I do just want to bring a couple of things that were in the presentation to your attention, just because BPAC has been interested in the past. That study from Fowler to I-75 that Suzanne highlighted is a really big one, connects over to the bypass canal and really extends the use of Fowler as sort of being a more bicycle pedestrian friendly spine connecting to Temple Terrace to USF and further west along that commercial corridor. Looking down at Bush from Dale Mabry to Nebraska, that's been a big one that has had a lot of safety issues over the years, and I believe is on, if not the top 20 high injury network corridors, it's on the next grouping after that. Adamo Drive at 26th Street, that new intersection proposal, you may be aware that that's, I believe, at Coppertail Brewery. It also is the route of the Green Artery Trail, which Faye can speak to more. But that goes directly south towards Palmetto Beach and the proposed Bermuda trail down there along McKay Bay. So that's a big connection point, and we will certainly distribute this for comments among the committee. Just a couple of quick ones more that are going on that you mentioned. Park Road, which we are going to bring back. It's the resurfacing project in Plant City. And also, let's see, Dale Mabry Highway from Gandy Boulevard north to Sevilla Street. That is undergoing that safety study right now as well. Whether or not there are possibilities for cycling facilities, certainly there are a lot of possibilities for pedestrian safety improvement, particularly where it crosses the Selman ramps and others. So some of this will be coming back to you. I just wanted to make some of those notes and thank Suzanne for her detailed presentation, which hit most of those already.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Right. Thank you very much. Have a good day. All right, moving on here, we have the opportunity to approve new membership here. Victoria Kluge and David Ellsworth have submitted their interests, and just correctly, Wade, we have 2+ openings. And so how are we going to handle voting them? Vote here, take comments from anyone virtual. And I guess I would also ask, is Victoria or David on the line right now to introduce themselves?
David is certainly here. And I do not see Victoria on the line, but she may be.
So I guess what we can do here is David asked that we can have David kind of introduce himself, kind of express his interest in joining the committee.
Hi, this is David. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Welcome.
Hi. Yeah, no, thanks for considering my membership. I actually did an introduction, I think 2 meetings ago, but good to see everyone again, and I look forward to participating.
Ask a question.
David, why are you interested in being on BPAC committee? What's your background?
Oh, hi, I'm a resident of South Tampa for about 20 years. I'm an active cyclist. I bike probably 15 miles, 20 miles a day, mostly on Bayshore and urban area downtown, Courtney Campbell. And I also a couple years ago started a local software company working on connected vehicle technology. So I have interest in bicycle pedestrian safety, how we can use technology to improve safety. And yeah, those are the things that led to my interest.
Thank you.
Any other questions for David?
I move that we, this is Jim Sherk. I move that we accept David's application for membership.
Alriady.
And I seconded Sally Thompson.
Any other further commentary? All right, all in favor of accepting David's application for membership signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. David, welcome.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to it.
All right, I think there's some one additional step from a logistics way. I think the PTO has to approve as well.
Yes, sir, that is correct. But Mr. Aylesworth, you may feel free to participate as we have traditionally done in the past. But we cannot count you towards a quorum until the board approves you.
All right, thank you.
All right,
Excuse me, may I ask a quick question?
Certainly.
This is Gail. Who was the second on the motion?
Sally Thompson.
Sally.
Thank you.
All right. Wait, we can take action on the other applicant as well before, correct?
We certainly can, and I know she's still interested. I did not receive a response from her about tonight, but I do know Ms. Klug is still interested. Or we can wait. It's at your discretion.
She put in she filed an application. We reviewed that. And that was part of the pack. So it was good.
Yeah. There were three people. I think one person withdrew.
Oh, okay. They were, okay.
Right.
Coming back.
Right. Okay. So we can entertain a motion to approve Victoria.
I move that we extend a membership invitation to this group.
And this is Jim Sherk.
Jim Sherk.
All right. Motion, is there a second?
Second.
All right, Peter Davitt seconded. Any compensation? Seeing none, vote for approved signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. All right. Second passage, okay. All right, thank you. All right, the next thing, Wade, I'm going to turn it over to you, election of officers.
Yes, sir. As you know, our current three officers are Tim Horst, citizen at large, Jim Sherk, vice chair, and Mr. Jonathan Forbes, chairman. So all three positions are available. I believe you have all three expressed your interest in continuing on the committee. I think you, Mr. Forbes, have said you would take lesser responsibility. You can let me know if I'm getting everything right.
You're correct as to name.
This is Jim Sharp. I've offered my name and nomination for the Sierra Club Executive Committee, and which unfortunately meets the same time we do. So I'm going to have to withdraw my officership in the coming year.
And Jim, in that regard, we will likely have a calendar at our next meeting for a vote, and I think we'll be trying to look at changing the. It'll still be on a Wednesday, but a different week of the month is what is being suggested.
In that case, if we can change it, I'll go ahead and stand for re-election.
Okay. Well, shall we start? With chair in that case, and work our way down, if that's all right.
This is Sally. I move we accept the entire slate.
Well, with deference to Mr. Forbes, are there any other nominations for chair? As I know he has worked hard for us, and they need a break.
This is Jim Sherk. I haven't talked to him yet, but Tim Horst seems like an extremely knowledgeable guy, and I'd like to know if he'd be interested in being the chairman.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Wade, could you explain a little about what would the commitment be for such a responsibility?
The commitment would be to run the meetings as Mr. Forbes has, work with me on any thing you would like added to the agenda or anything you would like to move forward as a committee. It's a pretty minimal time commitment, and if you have the time, it would be great to have you.
Do you guys meet together during the week?
We've had a couple conversations throughout I've been in this role 4 years. So I think during that time, outside of the normal prep that anyone does in regards to each of our meetings, I think Wade and I have chatted a few times over the years, and I think we met initially.
Don't forget the tattoo you have to get.
Did you indicate that you were interested in serving at large but not as chair?
Correct.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Correct. Yeah, I would be in favor.
Can I amend my motion?
I don't think your motion was even seconded.
Oh,
It died on the floor.
can I amend the motion?
Well, I think what we've done before with the election of officers is anyone who's interested is asked.
Oh, okay.
And there's also the opportunity to self-nominate if you would like to. But we also ask that if you have been nominated, you to accept the nomination. And that's what we have right now in front of us. If you're nominated, there's a second there too, where you can do something of that nomination.
It's not something I've considered prior to this meeting, so in an ideal world, I'd like time to think about it. But here we are.
Here we are. But if you're undecided, then I think what we would then do, Wade correct me, is we would vote what we have here. We can always get a form together. But we officiate the next one, we officiate the second. Sure.
So that would mean that I would go back to being the chair until we get a new chair.
Correct.
So I'm the interim chair.
You're the interim.
I could do that.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to it. I just wanted to talk it over with Wade a little bit, hear a little bit more about it, and just kind of talk to my wife about, more commitment here too.
And for the committee's knowledge, obviously this has been delayed since January. It's October now, and January is coming up again. So it's at the committee's discretion whether we want to do something in the interim between now and January, and then hold elections again in January. So that's certainly something we can do and consider it then.
All right.
Okay, I just be president for 2 weeks. For the 7th, in January, they're going to vote.
Okay.
Nor do I think you can.
Somebody else.
So what do you want, what kind of motion do you want?
That Jim would act as interim chair until the next election.
But then, what are you?
Yes, election.
Oh, so you would still be at large, or what would you?
Mr. Forbes would still be a member at large.
Who would be the vice chair if Jim takes it?
With the end.
So there'd be two at large and one.
That means I can't be a second. Say again?
I didn't understand you. I'll make whatever motion you like me to. I just need to figure out what to make.
Why don't you move that Jim Sheriff be the interim chair until the January meeting, at which time we'll select a new chair for the following year, for 2022.
And that John and Tim
Are
at large. Okay. This is Sally Thompson. I will make a motion. Jim Sharp be the interim chair until we have our elections in January, and that Jonathan Forbes and Tim Hurst be at large.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Second. Any further conversation? All right, all in favor of the motion signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes.
Wow.
Thank you, Jim. All right, thank you, Jim. All right.
And we all thank you very much, Jonathan, for your time as chair.
All right, quite welcome. All righty, so moving on, we're free to move on, correct? All right, so the next is status report on the Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan Mobility Element. Ms. Corcoran, Planning Commission staff. Hi, how are you?
Good evening, everybody. Sorry, 1 second, just trying to set up my screens here. Let's see. You should be seeing, like, are you seeing the presentation?
Yes.
All right, so good evening, BPAC. Thank you for having me for this presentation. Just one quick note, I am on the tail end of an actual cold, so I apologize if I have to mute myself for a moment, just a cough, but getting through that. So as you'll recall from the last BPAC meeting, I did a brief announcement on the Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan Mobility Section text amendment. So tonight I'll be giving a brief full presentation on this section and asking for any questions or comments. My co-lead on the update of this is Rich Clarendon of the TPO. He is not available tonight as he is out of the office. So moving right along, some background on the mobility section. It is currently adopted as the transportation element. It is part of the community and built environment chapter of the comprehensive plan, which includes future land use and housing. Those elements or sections have not moved forward yet. So this is the first section of this chapter to move forward. We've had extensive working group meetings with members from, including staff from Plan Hillsborough, Hillsborough County, including Public Works and Community and Infrastructure Planning, and HART, as well as other staff based on topic area. So the development of this language has been extensively collaborative as it's come forward. The implementation of the mobility section includes policies will impact regulations and ordinances, capital projects, education and outreach, as well as coordination with other implementing agencies, for example, HART. Key changes to the mobility section include a focus on equity. So if you look at our draft language, which is available on our project page, you'll notice that there are a couple of transportation element current policies that we've modified. However, a lot of the equity-focused policies are new policies and new objectives. So that is a new portion for the mobility section. We've also worked to institutionalize Vision Zero. So the current transportation element does have some safety language. However, it was last updated in 2008. So we've worked to add Vision Zero to the policy language and really update that to focus on safety. We also have language addressing resiliency in transportation, some language establishing multimodal level or quality of service standards. So looking beyond vehicular LOS and looking at bicycle and pedestrian and transit LOS standards. I will note for this that although the objective says that we will establish these standards, our working group is currently working on the standards themselves, which will live in the capital improvements element or CIE, which again has not come forward for update yet, but is tentatively scheduled for spring 2022. We also have language on coordinating transit service with land use. And as I mentioned previously, HART has worked closely with us on this language. We have a portion on building a smart system, which includes leveraging benefits of the county's advanced traffic management systems. We've worked to update outdated references and concepts. For example, since the plan was, or the section was last updated in 2008, we have a lot of outdated plans that are referenced in the language. We also have a section on preparing for emerging technology. So that includes anything from e-bikes and scooters to connected and autonomous vehicles. And finally, we're incorporating context-based roadway planning and design principles, and this is primarily through the context-based classification system that is proposed as a part of this amendment, which includes definitions of those context classifications, as well as a context classification map. This slide gives an overview of the goals and contents of the mobility section. One thing I will note here as we dive in, I am actually in the throes of updating the section based on feedback from the September 28th BOCC meeting. So we are actually adding, in addition to these 6 goals, a 7th goal on connectivity. So if you happen to look at the draft language in the next couple of weeks, that will be updated. Currently, as the presentation stands, we have 6 main goals, which I'll be going over in more detail in the next 6 slides. We also have an implementation and monitoring section. This is not adopted, and it is a reference page pointing to other documents that the county is working on that are more implementation focused. And finally, we have an assessment of conditions, which is a mapping inventory that will update a lot of our outdated maps that we have in the current transportation element. Again, most of these maps are not adopted, but I will note that the context classification map, which is new, will be the only new adopted map as a part of this section. Our first goal is to achieve equitable outcomes, and it reads to build a transportation system that supports the needs of all users with respect to ability, resources, identity, and mode preference. Our objectives here include engaging the public to ensure everyone can collaborate and provide input on transportation planning and implementation, considering both positive and negative socioeconomic, physical, and mental health impacts of transportation projects, especially in underserved communities. And finally, recognizing and avoiding repeating past injustices, striving to alleviate or mitigate disproportionate burdens on underserved communities. Our next goal is to achieve Vision Zero by providing a multimodal transportation system that prioritizes the safety of all roadway users. Our objectives include using an integrated safe systems approach to develop and design improvements, protecting vulnerable users such as children and the elderly through a safe systems approach, speed management, and context-sensitive multimodal facility design. Assisting in equitable education and fair enforcement of traffic laws for all road users. And finally, using that safe systems approach to identify and improve high injury corridors. And this includes collaborating with other agencies that are committed to Vision Zero, as well as referencing the TPO's adopted crash reduction targets. Our third goal is to maintain the system in good repair, preserve assets, and improve resiliency to climate change. Our objectives here include maintaining existing transportation infrastructure while repairing or replacing deficient facilities, supporting the maintenance of public transportation assets in ways that the county can. So that includes continued support of Sunshine Line and also assisting HART, for example, if there's a needed sidewalk near a bus stop, so that sort of thing. And finally, maintaining or improving the capability of the multimodal system to evacuate vulnerable populations and enhancing the system's resiliency to withstand and recover from a disaster. I will note that this objective is the portion on evacuating vulnerable populations is required by state statute. Our fourth goal is to provide choices when not driving, and it reads, create a sustainable transportation system that allows people to take their mode of choice to access necessities, opportunities, recreation, and each other. We have several objectives here, including balancing vehicular capacity with fiscal, environmental, social, or economic outcomes. As I mentioned in the beginning, establishing and maintaining those multimodal level of service standards or quality of service standards, which will live in the CIE. New development providing mobility fees to mitigate its impact on the multimodal network. Updating the corridor preservation plan and ensuring adequate multimodal corridors. And I'll note that the corridor preservation plan language currently has an emphasis on connectivity. But as I mentioned in the beginning, we are pulling that out to create our own goal on connectivity in the mobility section. We have an objective on supporting, or several objectives actually, supporting and collaborating with HART to increase frequency to higher density and intensity areas, as well as transportation disadvantaged communities. And finally, building a comprehensive bicycle and pedestrian system for additional trip purposes beyond just recreational use. Our fifth goal is to build a smart system that utilizes technology and strategies to improve safety, efficiency, and reliability for all modes of transportation and to meet the needs of all users. Again, we have several objectives here, including addressing deficient roadways and safety of all users through enhanced traffic flow through technological solutions, modernizing the county's traffic management center to monitor and optimize the multimodal system, increasing person trips and reducing vehicle miles traveled through transportation demand management, implementing comprehensive multimodal parking and curb space management programs, pursuing corridor widening strategically after lower cost alternatives have been considered, improving multimodal connections to major military installations, tourist destinations, and airport, port, ferry, rail, and intermodal terminals, and finally, monitoring and supporting emerging technologies and strategies for transportation facilities. And as I mentioned in the beginning, this can include everything from e-bikes and scooters to connected vehicles and even autonomous vehicles. Our final goal for now is ensuring compatibility with context, which reads to provide a multimodal transportation system that supports planned future land use, respects historical and cultural assets, supports the identity of the surrounding community, and protects the natural environment. Our objectives here include designing roadways appropriate to the future land use category that they traverse. So as I mentioned in the beginning, that context classification, definitions, and maps are included here. And for those who aren't aware, context classification, the graphic on the right here on this slide shows that when you look at a roadway, it's looking at the surrounding land use. So anything from rural to different types of suburban to urban land uses, and really making sure that you design the roadway appropriate to those land uses. We also have an objective to minimize adverse impacts to residential and commercial neighborhoods, as well as environmentally sensitive land. Protecting neighborhoods from adverse impact of through traffic and speeds while providing reasonable access to and from those areas. And finally, constructing complete streets to achieve safety, comfort, and aesthetics for all expected users and modes. Again, as I mentioned in the beginning, we do have an implementation and monitoring section that will be updated as guidance documents and standards become available. Currently, we are in the July cycle of plan amendments with the mobility section. And these other documents are in progress with the county, including the Complete Streets Guidebook, the Transportation Design Manual, the Transportation Technical Manual, and an update to the Corridor Preservation Plan. We do have a mobility section project page where you can review the draft language. You can see what's new and existing and compare the existing adopted language with the proposed. That's via our what we call crosswalks, which are under supporting documents at the very bottom of the page. They're very useful to see how we modified the various language. You can review previous presentations as well as other background information. And also note our upcoming meeting dates. So that includes a November 8th public hearing with the Planning Commission, as well as a December 16th transmittal hearing with the BOCC. And again, here's the link to the mobility section project page. I will note here that our public comment period ends this Friday. So please, if you have any comments on the mobility section that you would like to submit online, please note that date. I would also note that if you have any positive things to say about the mobility section, we will definitely be taking those as well. And that will be all included within our packets to both the Planning Commission and the BOCC. And ladies and gentlemen, this concludes my presentation tonight. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Good, Brandon. Is there any questions concerning the presentation? Wait, any questions in the chat box?
No, sir.
I have a question for Katrina. Hi, Katrina, Abigail Flores, Hillsborough County. What was some of the comments that the commissioners provided on this update? You mentioned connectivity. Can you describe more of that, please?
Sure, certainly. Thank you, Abigail. The BOCC, some of the commissioners, we noted that there was some policy language related to connectivity, specifically if you look at the draft language on our webpage, it's under Goal 4 in the Corridor Preservation language. I would have to look up excuse me, the specific objective, I think it might be 4.3, but I can get back to you on that. However, they were looking for more policy language on that, and they felt that the topic was important enough to elevate it to a goal. So we've taken that feedback and we're noting it, and we are elevating that topic to a goal. So we will now have 7 instead of 6 goals. We're moving some policy language around and adding some new policy language related to that. And excuse me, we will, some of the other comments we received included comments on using the term transit dependent. Some commissioners did not like that term and said that it can be used negatively. So we'll be changing that to transportation disadvantaged. There was a lot of discussion again on that connectivity. And overall, just making sure that we integrate some of those comments based on that. So that's everything I can think of off the top of my head, but we've been working on that and, you know, some minor wordsmithing from the commissioners. Yes.
Thanks. So that connectivity, is that referring to the various mobile networks, so bike, ped, driver?
Yes, so making sure that development is not isolated on its own, that there are connections between compatible developments, whether that's vehicular, bicycle, or pedestrian, and making sure that we're moving away from having one entrance to a community or a neighborhood, which typically will drive more vehicles as opposed to, you know, having that grid network that the commissioners are looking for.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All righty. Any other questions or comments? All right. Thank you very much for your time this evening.
Thank you.
Moving on to the next item, we have any old business or new business to address?
None from staff, Mr. Chair.
All right. And other than that, next item on here is adjournment. So,
I move we adjourn.
Church move to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Any opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you.
You all next time.
All right.
Yeah.
Oh,